It's not you, humankind. It's me. Kia ora everyone, and welcome back. My name is JumboPixel, and today we're going to talk about these 5 things that I've picked up from the first week of Humankind. Indeed, it's been out for a week. I've sort of aggregated a lot of this from across my community as well. Many of you watching this video have fed into it. Indeed, I've been streaming Humankind, it'd be fair to say, quite a lot this week. Thanks, lockdown. And really, I've come across what I've found to be a game that I really enjoy. However, like anything in life, we do need to talk from time to time. And Humankind, I think it's time for you and I to sit down and have a really serious, hopefully not, conversation about 5 things that I think Humankind could potentially improve on. Again, not just my thoughts, hopefully it's representative of yours as well, but I would like to hear more from you, so do let me know in the comments below. I genuinely do read them and take them into account when I'm making future videos. Anyway, first and foremost, I think the elephant in the room, or the mammoth as it were, is the AI. And the AI for me has been a really mixed bag. On the one hand, incredibly powerful, superhuman, and on the other hand, really super stupid, okay? Let me explain. And I know that AI is never going to be perfect in a game like this, so please don't take my criticisms the wrong way in this video. Lynch mob, you can take your lynches away. I'm fine. Anyway, I think that the AI is very powerful in its ability to explore the map and take territory. And I think it's actually too powerful for the difficulty levels that most players are playing at. I've spoken to a lot of people who have played in those sort of lower to mid-level difficulties, around sort of, easy to normal. And even at those difficulties, the AI, particularly their scouts, will beeline with ultimate precision to, number 1, claim curiosities, discoveries, those things we need to get food for our people, to get more tribes people, to discover science, and ultimately to progress through into the next era and choose a culture. The AI will beat you to those because it turns out the AI kind of has this superhuman ability to track them down even when it can't see them. The only upside to this is it actually works for you as well. So if you put your scouts, indeed your tribe, on auto explore, it will automatically beeline for curiosities even if they're not within sight. And I do suspect that the AIs are just the same. I can't see any reason why it would be different. And I think this actually solves something that I've been puzzling myself about all week. How is this AI, even on low to middle difficulties, beating me, firstly, to pick a culture? I seem to never be first. I'm usually like 4th or 5th. And secondly, how are they getting so many dang territories before I can, even on a difficulty that's relatively low? I'm not a perfect player, but I should be able to beat the AI on a low difficulty. And it turns out, yep, the AI has this superhuman ability to track down curiosities and discoveries, and therefore it will beat a mere human like you and I. Well, I assume you, and actually maybe not even me. But either way, it's very powerful. However, on the flip side, and there is a flip side, in combat, it makes some rather stupid decisions. And I've encountered this many times. If you auto-resolve, you may lose, because it's AI versus AI, and it does some wacky things. You can watch it play out, actually, if you set the battle to manual and then auto-resolve it. Kind of fun. But either way, the AI tends to challenge me in fights it shouldn't challenge. It tends to leave its high ground to attack me on low ground. When I'm not entrenched, and it was. It makes foolish decisions. My point here is that the AI needs to be tuned in 2 ways. It needs to be slightly worse at automatically exploring. It shouldn't be able to find things it literally can't see and beeline to them with 100% precision. And then on the combat side, I think as Humankind grows and develops, hopefully Amplitude can tweak that a little bit, just so it doesn't make quite as many daft decisions in combat. Indeed, don't send 1 unit against my 10 Hun. It's not gonna go well for you. Do not try. Second up, I'd like to see Amplitude Studios give strategic resources a little bit of love. I think that, they are pretty dang hard to get. I was playing a game today, all I wanted to do was get nukes. I needed 3 uraniums to launch the intercontinental ballistic missile, something I'd poured a lot of time and effort into researching and testing. And unfortunately, I found that there were only 4 uranium on the map. This is a normal size map with a normal number of players, and you need to control 3 of them. I'm no expert, but that's pretty problematic because that means that only one player will ever be able to do that at a given time, right? That's an extreme example. I think there are others as well. Mainly it's around the late game strategic resources. I'm thinking oil, uranium, to a lesser extent aluminium, but equally difficult. Reason being, a lot of the late game military, in fact almost all of the late game military units, rely on these resources. So if you want to at all flex your might, you're going to need to track down a lot of them. Now, thankfully, Humankind does allow a pretty easily trade interface, so assuming the AI has hooked some up, which they often may not have, and you can trade with them, which you often may not be able to do, then you can also get access to it through trade. So it's not the be-all and end-all that there aren't heaps of them on the map, but I think we do need to see it tuned in some way, whether that be adding more of them to the map, changing the way they're earned. So at the moment, if you hold 3 uraniums, for example, you can build the missile, and you can build as many of those nukes as you want. It doesn't sort of use up the uranium, you just have to control them. I actually quite like that. I think that adds a lot more value to the strategic position of the resource. But I think there are some other things that they could add. For example, let me create oil or aluminium. Other games have done this. Indeed, real life, we do this, right? Can I have some synthetic oil? It doesn't have to be anywhere near as good. You can make me make 3 times or 4 times as much of it compared to a natural resource pool. I don't mind. But it would be nice if we could just have a few more options, so we're not purely forced into either befriending the AI and trading with them, or taking every single territory on the map to try and build some of these later game units. Again, I think that'll be a pretty easy fix for them. It's not something I'm stressed about, but it is definitely something to highlight, because if we don't highlight it, it may go unnoticed. Thirdly, and this one is kind of tricky and will be more likely to play out over months and months rather than days or day one patch, right? This is a big issue, and it's balance. But when I say it's a big issue, I don't mean fundamentally it breaks the game. Because, let's be honest, I don't think we've spent quite enough time with Humankind Game to fully figure out what things are, quote unquote, perfectly balanced, and what things aren't. I don't think we've quite spent enough time to figure out all of those things, but we're starting to learn. We're starting to learn that the Harappans are indeed most likely the greatest culture in the ancient era, thanks to their insane growth that'll set you up for the rest of the game, and things like that. So, again, I don't think this is a massive one, but it's something that we have a responsibility in a way to discover as players, and then Amplitude Studios have a responsibility to respond. They don't have to fix it, quote unquote, because it may not be a problem. Right? I'm just one person. But at the end of the day, I think that having the dialogue around balance and things that start to emerge as being tall poppies may need to be chopped down. Fourthly, I think, and this is one that I've played around with a lot personally, so I can perhaps speak a little bit more to this one. Again, anecdotally, but I can. And it's the pacing and game speed. And talking with you guys a lot in my live streams, I think you're finding the same thing. I think fundamentally the problem with the pacings largely lies at the fringes. On normal speed, where there's 300 turns, the game is fairly well paced. You spend the right amount of time in the Neolithic era. Each era is fairly well paced in terms of how long you get to spend with each one. I don't have any major issues with it, actually. I think they've nailed that pretty well. It's on the fringes where the issues occur, and what I mean by that is the quickest mode and the slowest mode. Many players would like to see an even slower, sort of an endless mode. I think at the moment the max number of turns is 600, and it would probably make more sense to have that at like 900 or 1200, right? Really slow. Some people love those marathon speeds. Not me. But some people do. So we'll let them do it. But then on the other side, the Blitz game mode, which literally has 75 turns, is really not paced very well at all, to be honest. What will happen is the Neolithic era will be skipped in sort of 1 to 3 turns, and the AI will always skip it in 1, harping back to the fact that they have this incredible superhuman ability to beeline to things they can't see. Basically, in the Blitz mode, you only need to really make 1 discovery to finish the Blitz mode. So, because the AI can beeline to them when they can't see them, most of the AIs get their culture in the very first turn, and that leaves you at a super disadvantage. And unless, of course, you are also a superhuman player who explores. But of course, also there's an element of luck, right? You could put your scout on auto-explore, let it automatically find a curiosity, but there's just not one in range. and then you're stuffed because you don't get to choose your culture. I was burned by that a few times, and it kind of sucks. One thing that I would quite like to see them do is allow us to start in different eras. I think that the Blitz mode would be really fun if I could play it, and I was talking about this in the comments with a few of you, if I could play this and choose the modes, right? Maybe I want to start in that sort of nomadic time and only play through until the end of the classical era. And that would be a fun Blitz mode, right? 75 turns, nomadic to classic. Likewise, at the end of the spectrum, some of us would love to just sit down and play the contemporary era and nothing more, right? I want to play in the modern era. I want to play with the modern toys, the nukes and the planes and the da-da-da. And I think that would be fun too. Again, something really simple to fix and maybe even be able to be fixed by my fifth point. And that's more broadly around the community, modding support, and platform support. How is this game played, and how are we interacting with each other? I think for me, Humankind had a great launch, and I was pretty lucky. I had to reinstall it once, but these things happen, and it was all the way laughing. I've had no issues with performance whatsoever playing it through Steam. My computer's been totally fine. I am super impressed. However, this isn't just about me, and just because I have a slightly privileged platform sitting here talking to likely many thousands of you, that doesn't mean that your concerns are worth any less, and I've heard them. Man, I have heard them. There are a few issues. I think multiplayer is slightly unstable. Again, I think they're working very hard on this. And actually, they've already made some pretty decent progress. So watch this space. I think that's going to work. And it's going to be really fun. You can hot join in and out of games. I'm pretty excited, hopefully, to try it with some of you guys once it's a bit more stable. Also, I think there were a few issues with the Google Stadia and Xbox Game Pass versions. Now, again, I can't comment on Google Stadia because we don't even have it in New Zealand, but in terms of the Xbox Game Pass version, I'm told it doesn't run quite as smoothly. I can't comment on this, but I am in general a fan of it because I think it allows players a fairly cheap and easy way to access Humankind, which is cool because that way it's not stuck behind an $80 paywall. But by and large, I think overall we're getting there. There are some teething issues around networking and servers. Let's not talk about the Mac version, which has been delayed just a couple of weeks. I'm joking. But overall, I think it's pretty good. And I would like to see, likewise, the in-game modding support be more sort of strengthened a little bit. It's suffering from a few technical hiccups at launch as well. But from what I've seen and played around with the map editor, the custom maps, and from what I've seen on the forums, from people talking about different mods that they're either working on or want to work on, I'm really optimistic for the future. So please don't take these concerns the wrong way, because by and large, and to answer a question that maybe if you've made it to the end of the video, which most people haven't, so firstly, that was supposed to be a high five. Probably just sounded awful. That was me high-fiving you. Thanks for sticking around. I appreciate it. But, you know, more broadly, I think that that once we get past this sort of launch issues, all of these things that people are talking about and working on will flood through. And I'm really optimistic. And to answer that penultimate question, do these issues make Humankind a bad game? I honestly think no. These are things that the game can work through. We have to remember, this is the first week. I'm excited to see where Humankind Game goes next. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you then. Bye everyone.